Thank you very much. I want to talk about MIGS. I know that you don't do MIGS in Greece, but I think it's important that you have some knowledge of MIGS anyway, because patients going to ask you about MIGS, even though you don't offer it. They're saying, right, what should I do about my glaucoma? Would you suggest any alternative? Where can I go for MIGS surgery? And you do have to have some understanding of it, because it is very prevalent, because after all, glaucoma or healthcare is driven by profit and money. And a lot of people are offering it with or without huge amount of evidence, I must add, in some cases. So what I'm going to do is going to run through the principle of MIGS surgery, and I see whether this works. Does it work? Or I'll just use Enter. Okay. Right, these are my decoration, this is my research unit. Well, let me go through this new glaucoma surgery with you. If you have a randomized controlled trial of over 130 patients at 24 months visit. This is a washout, by the way, okay? Or percentages of eye, unmedicated. This is not washout. This is just their pressure. There are patients without taking any medication after surgery. Now, at 24 months, 2 years, you have 44% of the patient who has glaucoma at the beginning. At the end of the 2 years follow-up, they do not need any drops at all to control their glaucoma, in 44% of the case. That compares really well with PTVT study, which I'm part of, which complete success of 14% in tube, while trabeculectomy is 59%. Now, so it sounds like amazing glaucoma surgery, right? You agree? What if I tell you that the glaucoma surgery only takes 10 to 15 minutes to do and has a very low risk profile, 95% chance of no complication at all? And then, not only that, there is a possibility of, strong possibility the patient will improve vision, and there's no extra surgical training. So what do you think this glaucoma surgery is? Any idea? Yeah. Exactly. This is phaco. Now, it shows you how effective phaco is in lowering IOP. I mean, this is a large randomized controlled trial. So you then have to ask yourself, what does MIGS add to that already highly successful surgery, which is cataract surgery, in lowering IOP? Well, that particular data I presented to you is from the CyPass, one of the large randomized controlled trial of patients who had control arm, 131, who only had cataract, the other bits had cataract plus CyPass. So, therefore, we have to just analyze the evidence of the benefit of MIGS or other type of surgery to see whether it adds any more to the already highly successful cataract surgery. Now, I coined the term MOGS, which term moderately invasive glaucoma surgery. Partly, I think, if you started mixing Zen or microshunt as a mix, I don't think it's true, because once you breach the subconjunctival space, it's really not a minimally invasive glaucoma surgery anymore. I think it's a moderately invasive glaucoma surgery, because you can potentially still do trap. So let's go through one by one. How about the trans-TM surgery? These are what I consider a true mix. Hydrus, iStent, Kahook Dual Blade. I'm going to present some of the data for study that I'm involved in, not iStent, which I currently have no data to show you. So this is the study that was published in ophthalmology this year, Hydrus 4 Horizon study, which I was the largest recruiting center in the world for this particular study. You might have heard of Hydrus. It's a titanium stent. It's not actually a tube. It's a scaffolding that put into the trabecular meshwork. And it goes with a sort of standard FDA agreed protocol for randomized controlled trial. You have to wash out the IOP at baseline before you enroll into surgery, and you do the randomization after a routine and complicated cataract surgery, and at 2 years, 12 months, and 24 months, we wash them out again, look at the IOP. Now, what is confirmed, yet again, is that cataract surgery is incredibly good at reducing IOP. You can see cataract surgery reduces IOP by 70% of the patient at 1 year, but Hydrus at another 15%. So there are some benefit in that. Now, benefit perhaps more exaggerated at 2 years, where the fall-off of the effectiveness of cataract surgery dropped down to about 58%, while Hydra is still maintaining pretty good, which is 77%. And this is also highlighted, shown in the graph here. So what it does shows is that cataract surgery plus Hydra's implant does add to the overall success rate and the IOP level at 2 years after washout. And how about Kahook? So what we have designed in my unit is that we want to remove the effect of cataract surgery. So all these patients undergone Kahook surgery had already had cataract surgery in the past. Okay, so there's no confounding effect of cataract surgery on the outflow facility. So this is just patients have POAG or OHT, intolerance of medications, or medication failed to control their IOP. We asked them to come in for washout, measure the outflow facility, and then underwent a Kahook Dual Blade surgery. And we measure the outflow facility and IOP and look at the IOP changes. Not huge, but there's still 24% reductions in IOP at 3 months. So there is some this reduction in IOP. And if you look at the outflow facility, this is a typical tracing from the graph, is that you can see the pretty much a flat curve on trabecular outflow facility at baseline. 0.04 is the typical glaucomatous eye. And after glaucoma surgery, Kahook Dual Blade surgery, you pretty much double the outflow facility. And this is shown in a graph here. So it's a 90% increase in outflow facility. So it does seem to show that Kahook Dual Blade works. Certainly at 3 months in our study, that increases outflow facility and reduces IOP by about 24%. Not bad for a surgery that takes about 15 minutes to do. Now, part of the reason why TM surgery is harder to achieve at low IOP is that the concepts of collector channels and then the IOP flow after TM surgery. And scarring as well. It's important to remember that scarring is a problem too in terms of TM surgery. So this is from Ike. I can never get this good video from Ike. Ike's video system is fantastic. So this is a patient who had Hydra's implant. You can see the injections of Type blue, and you can see all the the vein shows up in blue once injected, showing that there's a direct communication between the anterior chamber and the collective channels immediately after you've done the trans-TM surgery. So this is what you want to see. And the reason for that is that why it's not always able to achieve that is partly because there are limited numbers of collective channels. And you really have to be sure that you are hitting the collective channels. And there's also a concept, there's what we call segmental flow. People have look at the histology of the trabecular meshwork. The pigmented area of trabecular meshwork is the link to the area where there's high flow. So now imagine if you're doing an eye stent. If you put it right here, and you are, I think this one. If you put it here, you are in luck. You are into a high flow area, which is probably next to a collector channels. But if you put it next to a low flow area, you're probably not going to get too much reduction in IOP because you're not near or close to a functioning collective channels. So it's important when you're doing sort of trans-TM surgery. This is one of my early cases of Hydra's implant. So you can see there was interruptions of the blood in the Schrems canal. So you can see there's absolutely no drainage through there at all. So you have to find a separate site where there's a continuous drainage, which means blood in the Schrems canal, and this is where you want to put in the Hydra's implant in. So you want to look for blood in the Schrems canal, uninterrupted blood. So that shows you where the drainage are, okay? So this is a Hydra's implant being inserted into the Schrems canal. So that's that. I don't know whether you've seen the Hydra's implant. So this is it's a kind of injector going into the eye. So that's this part of the external part of the. You can see blood. Blood is good. You want to see blood. It shows you there's a connection between the anterior chamber and the epicenter venous vein, basically. So the flow of IOP is the concept of IOP flow is interesting, because if you say that you are removing all the Schrems canal resistance after trans-TM surgery, you should get very close to episcleral venous pressure, which is about 7, 8, or 10, or 11. But reality is that in all the study you look at, nobody ever achieved that kind of IOP. So what I'm saying to you is, if you remove all the Schramm's canal resistant, why aren't you getting 7 or 8 to 10 IOP post-trans-TM surgery? You can see all the study, washout 16, 17. So it appears to be, it's likely to be, they are resistant beyond the collected channels in the trabecular meshwork outflow channels that we are not aware of up until now. I mean, we always believe that 90% or more of the resistance to outflow is in the juxtacanaliculaar trabecular meshwork. It may not be true. I think there may be significant outflow resistance beyond the collector, beyond the Schramm's canal or collector channels that we are not aware of. So this is the reason why, if you're going to advise patients on trans-TM mixed surgery, you have to tell them that because of the post-collector channel resistance, you're not going to get very low IOP. You might get 16, 14 at best. So a patient who needs really low IOP, mixed is not going to achieve that at all, okay? And scarring is a possibility. This is a scarring of post-iStent and trabectomy surgery. This kind of thing happens all the time, even in trans-TM surgery. And it has been reported by my colleagues in Toronto, in Montreal, that they've tried to yag the membrane that occur after trans-TM surgery. So these are the limitations of trans-TM surgery you have to be aware of, okay? So the resistance to the outflow may be beyond the collector channels. The access to the collector channel may not always be accurate. You may not hit the collector channels when you're doing the surgery, and scarring could be an issue. So in those cases, when I have patients with ocular hypertension and cataract, I would just say, do cataract only. You don't need to do anything else. If you have early glaucoma, yeah, I'll say I'll add something to it. But you might add iStent or Hydrus, but you can't really offer those to the advanced glaucoma patient because you're not going to achieve that very low IOP, okay? So that's important to do that. So how about MOGS, moderately invasive glaucoma surgery? Now, the concept of this kind of surgery is pretty much based on Poiseuille's equation. We know that it's a risk of hypotony first 6 weeks after glaucoma surgery until the bleb resistance is formed. Before that, if you have no resistance to outflow, you're going to get hypotony. So it's important that whatever we do, we're going to maintain a little bit of resistance to the outflow pathway. This is, again, based on simple Poiseuille's equation, and we published that many, many years ago. And if you look at the graph, so this is a graph that I did part of my thesis, is that you can predict what sort of size lumen that you need for your Zen implant or microshunt to prevent hypotony. And you can predict it based on the graph. In fact, all the armored valve, apart from armored valve, the microtide that you do, Moltino or supramesenting, is based on the same principle. So let's say you want to prevent a hypotony in the tube, in a glaucoma patient in the first 6 weeks. You have a 6 millimeter tube. Based on this graph, it will tell you that you need a minimum, certainly no greater than 50 micron diameter of tube. Otherwise, you're going to get hypotony. So does it work? Well, you can see. Look at the Zen study. So this is a Zen study that I presented many years ago actually 2-3 years ago in ESCRS. Initially, Zen had 140 micron and 45 micron. If you look at the hypotony rate in day 1, it will confirm what we already talked about, is that Zen 140 have high rate of hypotony, while if you use Zen 45, you're unlikely to do that. So this is, again, we can easily predict that based on the Poiseuille equation. How about microshunt? Microshunt uses exactly the same principle. So it is a slightly longer tube, 8.5 millimeter, and the lumen is 70. So that will prevent some sort of hypotony as well. But however, the resistance to outflow through the tube does add to a complexity later on in the trabeculectomy or glaucoma surgery life, in that you are going to get bleb resistant 6 weeks or 2 months later. So you're going to have higher pressure. So to make it easier to think about this is that if you think about resistance, this is the electric circuit. So voltage is equal to the two resistance. So this is resistant in series. So in the beginning, when you do not have any bleb resistant, you just have the tube resistant. Now, let's say the tube resistance is 12 millimeter mercury. However, 2 months later, you have a bleb resistant, which will give you another 12 millimeter mercury. What you end up with is pressure of 24. Now, that's not ideal because you're going to run into trouble because you're going to have high pressure. So in the ideal world, if you're going to do this kind of tube surgery without, with a stent, with a small tube, you want to eliminate all the bleb resistance as much as you can. So this is why I always do very high-dose surgery, high-dose mitomycin C surgery in this kind of, this is supposed to be a micro-shunt surgery. And what you want to do is get rid of all the bleb resistance even 3 to 6 months down the line. And what you don't want to do, also try to do any combined surgery like cataract surgery because they will cause more inflammation and you're going to get more bleb resistant. So think about that when you're trying to do a micro-shunt surgery or Zen surgery. Don't do combined surgery, use high-dose mitomycin C. And the other thing you can do is reduce the tube resistance. But you won't have trouble because if you reduce the tube resistance, you're going to get early hypotony. So it's a payoff thing. You can maybe get better long-term IOP result, but in the short term, you're going to get more hypotony. So some of you probably heard about the iWatch implant, which is from a company in Switzerland. It's a Greek engineer, actually, who designed this. So the idea is that you have a resistor that you can titrate. So it can tell you what level of resistance you want. You can do it post-operatively. You can change the resistance, the squeeze on the tube, squeeze it harder or less hard depending on the pressure of the eye. So it's quite an interesting concept. So I'm this chief investigator for this study for the part of the CE approval trial. We have recruited about 20, well, UK's 2 sites have recruited about 26 patients. We've got 2 more to do, then we'll finish the study. So the concept of this resistance in iWatch implants is quite interesting because it's adjustable. So you can turn it off, you can turn it on. So whatever you want to do, depends on the pressure in the eye. So that's something to think about. Sorry, I've run over time here. So in conclusion then, now I think you should only reserve the trans-TM mix for early or moderate glaucoma because it doesn't really achieve that really low IOP you need in advanced glaucoma. Now, as you all know, cost effectiveness is an issue. That's why you don't have it here because it is quite expensive. And I think the company have to address this, whether they have to prove it is truly cost effective before we can start rolling out to all the country. And scarring might be an issue. But if you think about Zen or micro-shunt implant, you really must remember you do not want any bleb resistant long term. So you want to use high-dose mitomycin C. You want to avoid any combined surgery. And in some way, iWatch seems to offer a nice alternative to some of this issue that we addressed earlier. Any question? Thank you. No?
No.